American women dominated the Olympic Games in Tokyo this summer, and female athletes won nearly 60% of the total medals brought home by Team USA. And it's reminiscent of another Olympics 25 years ago when the USA women's basketball, soccer, softball, and of course, gymnastics team all brought home gold in those 96 Summer Games in Atlanta. A new 6-part documentary podcast, Summer of Gold, tells a story of those 96 Olympic Games with interviews from the transformative female athletes who were there. The podcast is hosted by 5-time world champion figure skater Michelle Kwan. Let's check out a clip.
Dominique Moceanu was 14 years old, the youngest member of that U.S. women's gymnastics team.
We were instantly famous. We were instantly an attraction.
But Molly Yanity says the excitement around the women's gymnastics team was just the beginning.
Suddenly, I was being asked to go cover high school girls, go cover the volleyball team, go cover the soccer team, right that fall immediately.
But the thing is, this wasn't just about sports. This was a massive cultural moment for women, period.
Period, full stop. The podcast is presented by Togethxr, the media and lifestyle company founded by Olympic superstars Alex Morgan, Chloe Kim, Sue Bird, and Simone Manuel. And the first episode dropped just yesterday. And here to talk to us about it is the host of the podcast, 2-time Olympic medalist Michelle Kwan. There she is.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
I have to tell you, thank you for joining us. I know you are super busy. First and foremost, you have a beautiful voice on top of your beautiful athleticism.
I hate hearing my voice, actually.
Get used to it,
That's the first time I see my clip.
Get used to it, sister. The podcast celebrates the accomplishments of American women in the 96 Games, but it also reframes, it did for me, the ripple effect that those games had on women's athletics. I remember drinking wine under the cover of night, watching all those women compete. So that's just a little portion of the podcast. But what can we really expect from the series?
Well, first of all, you don't look old enough to be drinking at that time in 1996.
Well,
I'll just say that. Full stop. But I'm really excited to partner with Togethxr and Dear Media for this new documentary podcast, Summer of Gold. When I was first asked, my reaction was, wait, I'm a Winter Olympian. They know that, right? And it launched yesterday. The podcast talks about the 1996 Olympics, 25 years ago, and how it was the most important summers for women in sports history. It was a summer that WNBA was founded, a time where women's soccer was just breaking through, and it was a time when female athletes became really cultural icons, if you will. And this is a pivotal time to reflect on where we've come in the last 25 years, celebrate where we are now. I mean, you check, I'm sure all of you watched the 2020
Sure.
21 Olympic Games in Tokyo, and how 60% of women dominated their sport. But there's still so much to do in terms of equal pay and women in sports. And you hear in the podcast superstars and legends like Billie Jean King, Julie Foudy, Michelle Akers, Bryony Scurry, and so many others. So I hope everybody checks it out.
I hope they do too, because the episode starts with Sue Bird. And we think of her right now, she just won gold, she's got Abby on the sidelines and, this famous embrace. But we've come so far, as you mentioned, since those 96 games. And I wonder, you mentioned at the top of this interview, you competed in the Winter Olympics, but those 96 games were just as important for you as well. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us.
It made such an impression for me. At the time, I was 15 years old, training. I was world champion at the time already, and just glued to the television like all Americans, in anticipation for what would become 2 years later for my chance to make it to the Olympic Games. So I watched every single thing, from the basketball to the gymnastics, of course. Carrie Strug, her name pops to mind because of her, that magical moment where, she's limping off of one leg, but she vaulted and she did everything she could to represent and take home the gold. And I was, at the time, I remember running in between practices and coming home glued to the television, of course we had VH1, so we
A VHS or a VCR, right.
VH1, VHS. Okay, I'm dating myself here. But yeah, I remember those Olympics so well. And of course, 1996, it was in Atlanta. So USA turf, and just seeing the whole country rally behind American athletes was just so, it gives me the goosebumps just thinking about it.
I'm sure it does. And by the way, we're both aging ourselves, but we seem to be getting younger with every day. Michelle, it would be irresponsible of us not to talk about the other dominating theme of the Olympics, specifically when it came to women, which was the mental health aspect. You mentioned Kerri Strug, which that was a seminal moment in sports regardless of the gender. But now fast forward to 2020, we often asked ourselves, what would have happened to Kerri Strug had that happened? Had she, we saw Bella famously pick her up, stick the landing, but mental health was also front and center for these games. And I wonder how you plan to address that in the podcast and what your personal thoughts are now, having been someone who has competed at the adults level, at the elite level, excuse me.
Mental health was and is, as we saw clearly displayed at the 2021 Tokyo Games, so important for athletes to take care of themselves. That athletes are under so much pressure and scrutiny. And I could tell you from personal experience being, an Olympic figure skater, scrutinized, judged by 9 judges from different parts of the world, picking at every little move and costume and your musicality and every arm movement, it's hard to, think at such a young age. When I started competing at the world level at 13 through 26, those 13 years of growing up in front of an American audience, in front of the world, you are so vulnerable. At that clip right there, I'm all in tears, and it is so raw and so it's heartbreaking sometimes. When I see moments like in Tokyo where Simone, breaks down and she's not mic'd, but she's like, I can't do it. I can't. And I just feel for her because we don't really know what she's going through when she's scared about the twisties, like being upside down and fear for her life. Like, what does that feel like? I can only imagine. In skating, I didn't think that I would kill myself, but there's certain jumps, like I could tell you, going into a triple loop, which is my arch nemesis in figure skating. Not a lot of people know that, but I always put that jump in the beginning of my program. So in the beginning of the program, I was always like, gotta nail this.
Yeah, nailed it.
You're right in the eye, and it's scary. I don't know what it takes a lot of courage, and sometimes you just have to step back, acknowledge, hey, raising my hand.
Right.
I can't do it right now.
And it doesn't make you less of an athlete. It doesn't make you less of a hero. It doesn't make you less of anything. It just makes you human. By the way, as you're talking, I've single-handedly taken this napkin and I've twisted it I'm riveted by your insight and by your wisdom. And this is just a portion of what folks can expect when they listen to this podcast, Summer of Gold. Michelle Kwan, thank you so much. Congratulations again on everything that you have accomplished. And I know you have so much more to accomplish. So we appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Again, the podcast is called Summer of Gold. You can find it anywhere you get your podcasts.